This is always true, unless you are one of those lucky people who lives in a place where winter is almost not felt. Every February sucks, but this February surpassed all the previous ones. I thought about this while sitting on the balcony of my apartment with a cup of coffee and a cigarette. Yes, I know, this is a bad habit that I got rid of a long time ago when I had problems with money. But now money isn't an issue, and frankly, I just don't care. I don't smoke around children. I don't want them to adopt my bad habits or be exposed to secondhand smoke. But they're at my grandparents' house for the weekend, so I have some free time to think. The worst February in human history began with 2 weeks without sun. Gray skies, temperatures around -5 degrees, and occasional snowfall. Everyone looked forward to Valentine's Day as their salvation. That year it fell on a Thursday, and many people took Friday off, so newspaper editors suggested simply shutting down the entire city on February 15th. My wife, Linda, and I had big plans for Valentine's Day, just like everyone else. We woke up this morning to 2 inches of new snow, and it kept falling. By the middle of the day, we were both sent home from work. While it was still possible to get somewhere, the city was closing. By the time we had to get dressed for the evening out, all the roads were closed to non-urgent traffic, so we changed into cozy tracksuits. The big Valentine's Day date that was supposed to make up for the previous 2 weeks of non-stop nastiness turned into frozen pizza and Frozen with the kids. The only dance that evening was putting Emma and Timmy, 6 and 4 years old respectively, to bed to protest. There will definitely be no school tomorrow. Once the kids were asleep, I handed Linda a glass of wine, sighing. "Sorry, honey," I said. "Things should have been different." "It's okay, Jim. It's not your fault, and I had fun looking forward to what you had planned for us. Besides, if nothing else, I now have a new dress for the party," she replied. "Which I haven't seen yet," I said. "You know the rule. You'll only see it when you take me out into the world," she replied, raising her eyebrows. I looked at her, trying to imagine what she had bought and how she would look in it. Everything she wears not only looks great on her, but also reflects her inner world. She started making her own clothes in middle school and still does it sometimes. She makes a lot of Emma's dressing up costumes too. Anyone lucky enough to see her when she's dressed will think she's the most beautiful woman in the room, but won't understand why, because there might be hotter women out there. I looked at the diamond ring I had placed on her finger almost 10 years ago, sparkling in the firelight. "Thank you for saying yes, Linda. I love you." I raised my glass. "For us." "I love you too. For us," she replied with a smile. We sat for a while, silently, enjoying the moment. "Linda, I'm sorry I've been a bear the last few days," I said. "This isn't about you or the kids, and you deserve better from me. It's just this damn February and this." "I know, Jim," she said softly. "I'm sorry too. I was no better. I think hibernating bears have the right idea. We really should sleep until spring. We're all on edge, even the kids. People at my job are much worse than you. How about you at work?" "The same." "Well, look at it this way, Jim. We have each other, we have children, we have a home, we know where our next meal is coming from." "Yeah, from Wendy's," I said, laughing, remembering our first date. "It was our joke. I met her in college. My parents stopped supporting me to pay my father's medical bills, and I refused to take out a loan, so after paying for tuition and books, I literally had no money. Linda was in a slightly better position and offered to treat me or split the bill, but I didn't agree to that, so I saved money to take her to a nice place. She said it was stupid and that the main thing was to spend time together and get to know each other, and we could do that just as easily at Wendy's. So we did, and the rest was history. We've since moved up in class, but still go to Wendy's sometimes for old time's sake." "Seriously, Jim, how do people get through times like these if they don't have love?" "Sometimes they don't care." Linda shuddered. Her high school boyfriend committed suicide on Valentine's Day night a couple of years ago. "Well, we have love, and we can handle it," I said. I put the glass down and took both her hands in mine. "Happy Valentine's Day, my beloved wife." Happy Valentine's Day, my beloved husband." We looked into each other's eyes, then decided it was time to move to the bedroom. We ended up getting the 3-day weekend the editors had suggested, thanks to 2 feet of snow instead of the predicted 8 inches. Everything was closed, but luckily almost no one lost power, and enough people had snowmobiles to get where they really needed to go. Our children, of course, were delighted. Mom and Dad are home all day, there's snow to play with, pizza and movies, not to mention no school. What else do they need? Linda and I were happy too. There was no pressure to be somewhere or do anything, and we could enjoy family to our heart's content. Food wasn't an issue. Linda and I grew up here, so we always stocked up on extra in case something happened. Emma and Timmy were so tired that they didn't even act up before bed and slept like the dead. This, of course, allowed Linda and I to please each other in ways that would normally require sending the children out of the house. There were only a couple of things that didn't sit well with me this weekend. We had hundreds of movies in the house, but the kids only watched one. Cold Heart, again and again. Yes, it's a cute story with good songs, but as many as possible. And Linda never showed me the dress, didn't even let me look at it. Taking me in it means taking, not showing, she said, with a flirtatious smile. What if I promise to take it off you? Is that close enough? I asked. Nice try, but unsuccessful, she said, not giving an inch. Real peace returned early Sunday evening as our streets cleared. School and work started again on Monday, and we all sighed as we prepared for the day. Just before bed, Emma and Timmy walked into the living room, freshly bathed and in their night suits. Big Sister was the one doing the talking, of course, standing straight and tall. Mom, Dad, this weekend was the best ever. Thank you for playing with us, watching our movie, and being together for 3 whole days in a row. We love you. With these words, the girl hugged me, and the boy hugged Linda. After the sweetest hug in the world, they switched places and did it again. I looked at Linda and saw tears in her eyes, as well as mine. We love you too, I muttered. We are so glad that you are our children. That night, Linda and I made love until we felt like we were one. The next day, we couldn't stop smiling, and neither could the kids. February, full of sludge, came into its own again, and that 3-day fat weekend became just another memory. Linda and I had just collapsed on the living room couch after finally getting Emma and Timmy to bed when her phone rang. I grumbled and muttered something, but I don't remember what it was. It's Dee, I have to answer, she said. We had an informal group of 5 couples with whom we sometimes met. We all met already married, so there were no awkward, when you were single moments. We all had the same views on fidelity, that is, it's just done, it's not discussed. At least that's what I thought then. So when we went out, we could dance with each other's spouses if we wanted a change, and we knew it was safe. We were closest to Dee and her husband Dave. She and Linda were almost best friends forever. Linda made the "I'll be quick" gesture and answered the phone. I saw Linda become increasingly happy while talking to Dee. She literally glowed when she ended the call and plopped down on my lap. So what was that? I asked. My face couldn't help but reflect her smile. Well, my dear husband, she said with a grin, I know you think this terrible February has gone on long enough. You're right, I said, reaching for a glass of wine. Linda grabbed my wrist and placed my hand firmly on her slender waist. Well, we've been complaining about how this is the worst February in human history, and we're going to have to live through another day of it, she said. Something about it didn't match the smile on her face, and I told her so. Because Dee had a great idea, she said. The extra day of horror falls on Friday. What if we all got together, hired babysitters for the kids, had a really nice dinner, and then danced at a nice club, and we had hotel rooms for the night? This way we can have a little fun and not worry about driving home and end this terrible month on the right foot. I liked the idea, but I had a few questions. How about getting from the club back to the hotel? Do we have to go? I asked. Hit me if you want, but I'm almost always the one asking what could go wrong with the plan. This is the best, Jim, she said excitedly. You know Madison Uptown? We ate there, remember? There's a dance club down the block that some of Dave's colleagues go to. There will be a live band on Friday night, and there is no cover charge if you dine in Madison. Oh yes, and Phil and Jane have already asked Mrs. Porter to take their children for the night, and they say she is ready to take ours too. I need to think about it, I said, pretending to think. I didn't really have to think, but I knew that if I feigned doubt, she would find a way to convince me. Instead, she grabbed a sofa cushion and hit me on the head. Okay, I thought about it. Let's do that. But there is one condition, I told her. Which? Linda looked at me suspiciously. I took her tender face in my hands and looked into her blue eyes. You're going to wear the dress you bought for Valentine's Day that I haven't seen yet, I said. As you wish, my lord, she said with a smile. Your wish is my law. The dress was blue. Don't ask me what blue it was, because I won't be able to answer. All I can say is that it made her blue eyes look like they glowed in the dark. The dress had long sleeves and a high collar, and the skirt reached to the knees, but it was far from a grandmother's dress. The skirt was flared and barely fluttered when walking, attracting attention. When she danced, it was as if she was flirting with herself. The smooth fabric made you want to run your hands over it, as it hid and emphasized her feminine curves at the same time. Linda smiled as she slowly walked down the stairs where I waited, stunned and agape. Dear Jim, she said softly. She closed my mouth with a gentle movement of her finger under my chin. I swallowed, but still couldn't speak. It's still me, the same old me as always. You don't have to flatter me, although I admit I love it when you do, she said. You do not understand. You don't know how amazing you look. You. The words left me. I took her slender hands in mine, bowed and kissed them. I looked up and saw that her eyes were shiny and slightly moist, and I noticed a slight tremor in her smile. I nodded. She understood. 10 of us gathered in the restaurant. It was crowded on a Friday night, but we reserved a table large enough for all 10 of us to dine together. We laughed and talked, enjoying a wonderful meal, enjoying each other's company, and the fact that February was finally ending. Linda was the most attractive woman in the room, and I must have told her that about 6 times. I touched her arm, shoulder, or arm whenever I could find a reasonable excuse. She reciprocated and looked into my eyes. It was a night worth remembering. We checked into our rooms before heading to the club. Neither Linda nor I tolerated alcohol very well, so I was usually the one designated as the driver. I was glad I didn't have to do that today. Not that it bothers me. The safety of my friends was important to me, but I was looking forward to Linda being alone with me as soon as possible. She seemed to have the same thoughts. She went to our room for a few minutes alone, and when she returned, she had the same meaningful smile on her face. We don't have to spend much time at the club, do we? She whispered as we walked. I knew how much Linda loved to dance with our friends, so she would say, I don't want to wait too long to be alone, preferably naked. I smiled back at her. At your discretion, honey, I said. She hit me lightly on the top of my arm, then hugged it and hung on it. We reserved a table for 10 people at the club, which was great. Looks like a lot of other people were busy forgetting February, but not too busy to miss the 5 women in our group. You attract a lot of attention, honey, I whispered. You are, as always, the most attractive woman in the room. Oh, you, she looked at me. You know flattery will get you anywhere. Neither Linda nor I were great dancers, but we didn't disgrace ourselves. We just didn't care about it. We went out to enjoy each other and not to entertain others. So I danced with the love of my life, occasionally taking breaks for hot wings and a drink. I went to get some new wings. When he returned, Dave asked Linda to dance. I heard her answer. I'd love to, Dave, and I'll definitely dance with you another time, but tonight I want to make the evening special for Jim and me. Today I dance only with him, she said. Was I proud? Happy? Still would. I handed out the wings and whispered in Linda's ear. So maybe it's time to go back to our room, I asked. You just bought fresh. What about wings? What are you thinking about? We will need energy for what I have planned, she said, raising an eyebrow. She gave me that look again and held my hand under the table. A few minutes later, the group took a break. In the relative silence, we heard loud laughter from another table and turned to look. "Hey, isn't that Mark Lavalier?" Phil asked, leaning over to look around me. It's him," Dee squealed with excitement. Mark Lavalier was a star tight end for the Sharks, our city's professional football team. Unlike many others on the team, he lived here year-round. He had a reputation as a genuinely nice guy and was as well known for his social activities as he was for his exploits on the field. Mark became the main topic of conversation at our table as the guys discussed his football achievements and the women admired his good deeds and good nature. "And it doesn't hurt that he's handsome too," Dee added. Linda and I knew who he was, but at that moment we were only interested in each other. We let the conversation flow as we held each other's hands under the table. "Hey, you two, get a room," Dee said. Linda and I looked at each other. We didn't even kiss. Well, not exactly kissing, at least. My feeding her wings didn't count. Besides, we already rented a room. What saved us from further embarrassment was the start of the band's new set. "Are we going to dance here or in the room?" I whispered to Linda. Before she could respond, Jane interrupted us. "Look, he's coming here," she exclaimed. Indeed, Lavalier left his table and headed towards ours. I was surprised by the reaction of the women at our table. The four of them began to preen and bulge, as if to say, "Pick me, pick me." This display was quite embarrassing. If you think a woman can't bulge while sitting still, think again. Linda lowered her head and squeezed my hand tighter. "Hi, I'm Mark. Do you want to dance?" he asked. He stood behind Linda's left shoulder, holding out his hand to her. I felt her gasp as if she had been pricked by a hot potato and let go of my hand. I watched, stunned, as she turned her back to me, took Mark's right hand, and rose gracefully from her chair without even looking at me. I noticed how her hand practically disappeared into his large paw. I also noticed the look of delight on her face. At that moment, I simply ceased to exist for her. "Hey man, now my feelings are hurt. I thought she was only dancing with you tonight," Dave said, teasing me. "Yeah, I thought so too," I muttered. "Relax, Jim. It's just a dance," Jane said, trying to calm me down. I tried to believe her, but I couldn't shake the bad feeling. The band played a couple of fast songs and our entire table watched. So did everyone else in the room. Mark was good, much better than me, and Linda was clearly enjoying herself. Her partner and dress highlighted her perfection. "Do they look great together?" "Come on, Jim, let's join them," Dee suggested, clearly trying to distract me. "Thanks, but no," I replied sharply. The next song was slow. I watched as Linda melted into his arms, fitting perfectly into them as if she belonged there. He was good at that, too. Lots of practice, I guess, I thought to myself. Mark whispered something to Linda. She smiled sweetly in response. He didn't do anything that I could legitimately object to. He didn't dance closer to her than I danced with Dee or Jane. His hands didn't go where they shouldn't. Another slow song, this time a ballad. I saw how the group leader adjusted to my wife and her new partner. Mark smiled as he held her in his arms. He was clearly pleased with what was happening. I've seen enough and decided to put an end to it. I stood up from my chair and felt Jane touch my arm. "Wait, Jim. Give it to her. Don't ruin this moment for her," she said. I pulled my hand away, then looked at Linda's face. It was clear that she wanted to be exactly where she was and nowhere else. She didn't want any interference from me. In fact, I wasn't on her mind, and it was obvious. I collapsed back into my chair, heartbroken. Finally, the song ended. Mark nodded to the group leader, who began a fast song. He and Linda left the dance floor, smiling at each other, but not touching, not even holding hands. Linda gave him one last bright smile as she turned to our table and Mark to his. The difference between a woman's best smile and her second best smile is not much. If you don't know a woman well, you probably won't even notice her. As Linda approached our table and our eyes met, her best smile faded to her second best. At that moment, I realized we had a problem. "I keep telling you that you are the most attractive woman here," I whispered in her ear as I sat her down. I reached for her hand and held it in my arms. Is it time to take the next dance to our room? For a moment, I thought Linda was afraid. Her eyes widened, and I felt her hand shake. She quickly recovered and turned away from me, looking across the table. Sorry, everyone, I just need to go to the ladies' room right now. Linda, will you come with me? Dee asked. Her voice could be heard far beyond our table. I was too busy to wonder why she had to announce this to the entire room. Linda looked at me apologetically. Sorry, Jim, I need to freshen up too, she said with a hint of sadness in her voice. She got up and left without answering my question. Of course, the conversation immediately turned to the topic of why no woman in company could go to the ladies' room alone. I was just beginning to wonder why my friends were so eager to talk about this topic when Dee returned. She was alone. Where is Linda? Is she okay? I asked, almost shouting. Relax, Jim, Dee said, smiling. Linda is fine, she just needs to do something. You don't need to worry about her. She's a grown woman, you know. What is this supposed to mean, I wondered. Yes, I was worried about Linda, but she was just as worried about me. I put up with the teasing for about 5 minutes, and when Linda still didn't come back, I had enough. I stood up and headed to the bar, taking the empty plate with me as an excuse, and walked over to one of the barmaids. Sorry, but my wife went to the ladies' room about 15 minutes ago and hasn't come out yet, I said. She never stays that long. Could you go or send someone to make sure she's okay? The barmaid gave me an incredulous look. The plate in my hand gave me an idea. The wings are great, and she loves spicy food, but sometimes she has a reaction. I just want to make sure she's okay. Her name is Linda. Here, let me show you a photo of her, I said. I put the plate down and opened Linda's photo on my phone. The barmaid began to look sympathetic when a voice spoke from my elbow. She's fine, you don't need to check on her, Dee said, almost apologetically. She turned to the barmaid. Everything is fine. I'll take care of it, she said, placing the 5 on the counter. I was surprised why the barmaid looked at me with some kind of sympathy when she put the money in her pocket. What? Why? But you went there with her? Because you asked her? I was completely confused. Jim, she's not in the ladies' room. She left the club, Dee said. I felt as if I had been hit in the stomach. Left? Without me? Why? What's happened? Why didn't she tell me? Where did she go? Is she all right? I asked. I still didn't understand. Let's go to the end of the bar where there's some privacy, Dee said. I just went where Dee pulled me. It was quieter in the dark corner of the bar. She looked into my eyes. Jim, Linda loves you. She loves you and the kids more than anything in the world, and always will, and you know it. But she spends the night with Mark, she said. I stood there with my mouth open, stupidly watching my world collapse. The images were spinning madly in my mind, or what was left of it. Linda is at the top of the stairs in her beautiful blue dress. Linda at dinner. Linda at the club. Linda feeding me wings. Linda in the arms of the bastard. The bastard has sex with Linda. My Linda, mother of our children, love of my life. My anger increased. So, on our special night, she left me for some sports hero, I growled, looking at Dee. Jim, she didn't leave you. She will come back to you tomorrow, and you will have many more special nights together, she said. What was this woman smoking, I wondered. She didn't even find the courage to tell me to my face that she was leaving. She just slipped out the back door like a snake, I said, and you helped her. Jim, listen to me. She didn't leave you, Dee began. Well, if she didn't leave me, then where is she? She's not with me now, is she? I was getting louder, and I didn't care who heard me. Please calm down. People are looking at you. Look, I know you're hurting, but it's just for one night. Linda knows, we all know, that you are the only man for her and always will be. You're a good person, Dee said condescendingly. Yes, and we all know where a good man finishes, don't we? I said through clenched teeth. Jim, that's not true. You're making too much of a problem out of this. It's just one night, then she'll come back to you and everything will be the same, she said. I snorted in response. If she really believed this bullshit, nothing I could say would matter. You do not understand. There is no more tomorrow. So tell me, friend, what was your role in all of this? You weren't going to the ladies' room, were you? My wife gave you the signal, right? Did she tell you to detain me and keep me away long enough for her and the bastard to escape? Dee lowered her head, nodding shyly. Yes, she asked me to do it because she didn't want you to embarrass yourself by causing a scene while Mark was here. She also asked me to make sure you remember that she loves you and will always come back to you, she said. Yes, I will remember for a long time how much she loved me tonight, I thought. I felt my anger rising and my face turning red. More likely, she didn't want me to embarrass her when she left her husband to spend the night with some sports hero, I said. Didn't it occur to you, buddy, to remind her that she has a husband and a marriage, and she could lose them because of this? Dee looked into my eyes. No, it didn't come, Dee said, because I know she won't lose you over this. You're too good a person for this to happen. I told her how lucky she was. She was lucky because the man every woman in the room wanted her. But she is even luckier that she has a husband who loves her enough to get over his hurt feelings and not make a big deal out of it. You know she'll be willing to do whatever it takes, no matter how long it takes, to make things right with you. What if it can't be fixed? I asked. What if there's no way to do it right? Jim, I know how much you love Linda and how much she loves you. This shouldn't be a big problem. It's just one night, a one-time experience compared to the years and love you have together. It's not a big problem unless you make it yourself. I know she'll come back to you, and I know you'll be okay in the end, she said. Dee spoke softly but confidently. It took a lot of effort for me not to grab this stupid woman and shake her until her teeth chattered for talking such nonsense. She must be living in some kind of alternate world if she really thought so. So if the bastard chose you the way you wanted, would you do the same? I asked her. Yes, I would. She threw the answer in my face. Does Dave know about this? I asked her. No, and he doesn't need to know, because I don't think that will ever happen, she said quietly. Maybe I should tell him, I said. Jim, please don't. Do not think so. I know you're hurting, but it won't help. Please return to the table. Let us distract you for a while. You haven't danced with me once all evening, you know, she said, smiling. I wanted to dance with my wife, but thanks to you, her and the bastard, that's no longer an option, is it? I also wanted to spend the night alone with her, but that's obviously not going to happen either, I said. I turned my back to her and walked back to our table. The conversation at the table stopped abruptly when I appeared. The averted eyes spoke for themselves. All our so-called friends now knew that my wife and the bastard were cuckolding me at that moment. I wanted to strangle them. I wanted to smash everything around. I wanted to find the bastard and kill him. Jim, are you okay? Dave asked hesitantly as he sat Dee down. I wanted to tell him what Dee said and ask him if he would be okay, but I couldn't get the words to come out of my mouth. I guess I haven't completely stopped being a good guy yet. Oh yeah, I'll have to work on that. Depends on what you mean by okay, I said. There were a few nervous chuckles. I mean, yeah, it was shitty, but you can handle it, right? You're not going to divorce Linda over this, are you? Dave asked. I see no reason why not, I replied coldly. There was a collective sigh around the table. Why are you all surprised? I asked. We all know how we feel about cheating, once and that's it. We established this a long time ago. But Jim, this is Mark Lavaliere. Dee interjected. So what? I don't care who has sex with her. If it's not me, that means everything, I said angrily. I looked at Dave. What would you say if Dear went off with the bastard to spend the night with him? Would you be okay with that? His face turned red for a moment, then he looked at his wife, who was now busy examining a spot on the floor. Jim, what about your children? We all know how much you love them and how much they need you. Think about them before you do anything, Jane said. Her children were about the same age as mine and were best friends. You mean how my wife thinks about them now? I asked. Well, that's why you hired a nanny, so you don't have to think about the kids, Dee said. I think she meant it as a joke, but it sounded as flat as it deserved. Come on, Jim, it's just one night. This is an opportunity she will never have again. You're not going to divorce Linda over one night, she added. Why the hell not? I barked at her. There was an uncomfortable silence. Jim, try looking at it this way, maybe it will help, Jane said, trying to sound sympathetic. What if the Sports Illustrated cover model was here tonight? Let's say she chose you out of everyone present to dance, and then offered to spend the night with you. Can you honestly say that you wouldn't be tempted? Can you honestly say that you would refuse? The pleading look in her warm brown eyes made her look like a cute puppy and was usually quite effective in achieving her goals. But not today. I stood up and looked at Jane. Yes, I might be tempted, but I would refuse, I said decisively. You see, I have a wife, and I don't want to hurt her. At least that's what I would have done before tonight. There was another deafening silence. I looked around the table at each of my former friends, all of whom were siding with my cheating wife. At that moment, I sincerely hoped to never see them again. A rather large and muscular bouncer approached the table. Is there a problem here, guys? He asked in a deep baritone voice. Yes, there is a big problem, I said. I took out a $20 bill and threw it on the table. Don't worry, I'm leaving, I said, raising one hand. He nodded as I turned to the others. This will cover my bill. You are all covering up for this woman of easy virtue with whom I came. You can cover her bill too. I turned on my heel and walked out of the club. My anger subsided somewhat as I walked the block and a half to the hotel. It was replaced by a deep feeling of sadness that I had never known. Linda and I had to make the trek together, holding hands, joking with our friends about what they'd do when they got to their rooms, and joking back. She had to hold my hand the way she used to, burying her face in my sleeve when the conversation got too dirty. Instead, I was alone. Alone, I took the elevator, trying not to remember what Linda and I had done in other hotel elevators. Alone, I entered our room. Alone, I faced the wreckage of our special evening. Alone, I faced the future, unsure of what might happen. I turned on the light and closed the door behind me. Suddenly, I felt inexpressibly tired. I threw my winter coat on the floor and went into the bedroom. On each pillow was a god of a candy. Laying out on the bed was a bra and panties that I had never seen before. They were dark blue, darker than her dress, with black lace. In my imagination, I could see her trying them on, with that love and sensuality in her eyes that was only hers, that belonged to me until tonight. I took the little lace pieces in my hands, as if holding them could bring her back to me. It didn't work. I shed bitter tears. My wife, my lover, my best friend was taken by another man. He easily, casually pulled it out from under me, as if he had every right to do so. He didn't care what she meant to me. All he saw in her was a beautiful toy for the night, and she just let him. I didn't matter enough to her to cause even the slightest resistance. It seemed that she also believed that he had more rights to her than I, who had been her faithful and loving husband for almost 10 years. Yes, it was only supposed to be one night, and the next morning, I guess. So what? And what will remain in her heart, mind, and feelings from him and this night? What could I do to match, or even surpass the town's hero, the handsome stallion Mark, the bastard Lavalier? I stopped crying for a moment to wash myself, then gathered my things. I left all her things, cosmetics and toiletries there. To hell with her, let her take her things or let them throw them away. I threw my bra and panties in the trash. They didn't mean anything to me anymore. I left the hotel. I didn't care how Linda got home. The receptionist on duty looked puzzled as I went through the checkout process. Is everything okay in the room, sir? She asked. The room was great, but my wife's things are still there. She'll pick them up tomorrow, I said. Is there anything we can do to improve your stay? She answered. Yes, I thought. Let the bastard disappear into a black hole, never to be seen again. Turn back time and bring back my wife. I just shook my head. No, there's really nothing that can be done, but thank you for your concern, I said quietly. We just had some unexpected changes in plans. The receptionist looked at me with sympathy, almost as if she could read my thoughts. Have a good evening, sir, she said before I left. Yes, sure. Good evening. I got into the car and somehow made it home in one piece. There were a lot of nerves inside me. My emotions were fighting for control. Part of me was angrier than I had ever been in my life. Another part was sad at the loss of his wife and family. I walked into the house we lived in and noticed how quiet and empty it was. I threw my luggage into the master bedroom and sat down, trying to figure out what had happened. I looked at the phone, hoping to see a message or something from Linda. I hoped that she would come to her senses and change her mind, but this did not happen. I lay down on the bed, still in my clothes, and took a short nap. I woke up around 2 a.m. The dream helped clear my thoughts a little, but the anger remained. I needed a plan. First of all, I wasn't going to lose my children. Secondly, if I divorce her, she will receive the house, custody of the children, alimony, which, frankly, did not stop me from paying, and maintenance. In other words, she will get everything and I will be left with nothing. I couldn't imagine paying for her continued infidelity by living in a cheap apartment and eating canned food. I love the divorce laws in this country that punish a man after a woman sleeps with someone else. This is justice. What a joke. There is no justice when the innocent party ends up losing. Okay, the divorce is out of the question, but she can file for divorce. There wasn't much I could do except try to mitigate the consequences. Just accept it and move on further is not an option. There was no way in hell I was going to touch that cheater again. I realized that my love for her had turned into hatred. Hate is not the opposite of love. This is her relative. You can't truly hate someone if you don't have feelings for them. The opposite of love is indifference. If you don't care, why hate? But when love turns into hate, if you hold on to that hatred long enough, eventually it turns into indifference. No, I'm not divorcing this bitch, but I'm definitely not going to forgive her. I will do what I need to do, and I will be there for my children. Having made my decision, I began moving all my belongings into the guest bedroom. I really like the bed in that room. I've slept on it a couple of times when one of us had the flu and didn't want to pass it on to the other. It took a couple of hours, but I got everything organized. It's also worth mentioning that this room had its own bathroom. It was like a second master bedroom to make guests more comfortable. But now there will be no more guests. I went to pick up the kids around 9 a.m. Mrs. Porter noted that she hadn't expected me so early, but I muttered something about waking up early and wanting to get home. The children asked where Mom was, and I told them that she had something to do in the morning. By the time Linda returned home, it was about 11 o'clock. I looked up from the newspaper and saw the Jaguar driving away from the house. "Jim, it's me," she said, taking the key out of the lock. "I'm home," she announced, as if spending the night with her lover was a normal thing for her. I just looked at her for a moment and went back to reading the newspaper. "Listen, I'm sorry about how things turned out yesterday," she said. "But I'm here now, and I'm still your wife." I shook my head. She came up to me and tried to kiss me on the cheek, but I pushed her away. "Okay, keep sulking, but stop. It only happened once, and it was a sports hero. Once, and that's it. I am your wife, and I will never do anything like that again. When you decide to stop being offended, I will be ready to make amends to you." I looked up and finally spoke. "First of all, it had to be our special night. Last night was for the us. Instead, you decided to leave your husband to sleep with someone else on our special evening. Do you even understand how humiliating this was for me? Do you really think there's anything you can do to make it up to me? But it was just one time, and it was Marc Lavalier. It doesn't matter who it was. Once, and that's it. I'm sure you remember all our conversations about this." I went back to reading the newspaper. She stood there for another minute before turning and walking into her bedroom. A minute later, she returned. "Jim, where is all your stuff?" she asked. I forgot to close the drawers in the dresser, and she apparently looked in the closet and saw empty hangers. "They're in my bedroom, of course. Where else should they be?" "Fine, if you want so. Where's my suitcase? I need to unpack." "Your things are where you left them. I didn't touch them. Where did you leave them when you got home? or did you leave them in your lover's car? It took her a minute to understand what I said. Did you leave my things at the hotel? Certainly. You left me, so why don't I leave your things? Besides, I thought you might want to leave them there so you and your lover could humiliate me further by using the room I paid for. You're such a moron. I plan to wear this new underwear and make it up to you tonight. Well, I'm sure if you hurry, you can still get it out of the hotel trash and wear it for someone else. Her eyes became the size of saucers. Did you throw it away? It was brand new and cost over $100. I bought it especially for you. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if it's thrown away. I have absolutely no interest in seeing him. Since you bought it especially for me, it is no longer needed. By the way, you should hurry up and pick up your things from the hotel. I don't know how long they'll keep them before they throw them away. I saw her eyes water as she went to grab her bag and walk out the door. I focused on three things: being a better father to my children, working, and taking care of myself. Since I no longer cared about Linda, I had a lot of free time. I made good use of this time. I started working out and getting into the best shape of my life. I loved Emma and Timmy in the evenings when I got home from work. After they went to bed, I spent more time working in my home office. After that, I immediately went to my bedroom. Linda tried to get in a couple of times, but I changed the lock on the door. We continued to do things together as a family. As we walked out, I gently pushed her away when she tried to touch me. She would take my hand, and I would shake her hand off and step back. I tried to sit where she couldn't sit next to me in restaurants. When we went to Emma and Timmy's school events, I played the part of the happy husband, but I never touched Linda. She tried to hug me, and I changed my position to break the contact. I learned to hold a glass or cup of drink in my hand next to her. In conversations, I almost never spoke up when she made comments, but I actively interacted with others. We lived like roommates who tolerated each other. At home, I talked to Linda only about the children and necessary household chores. I was sitting on the couch, reading or watching something on TV, when she came in and sat down next to me. Without a word, I got up and moved to another chair. This went on for 6 months until she gave me an ultimatum. Listen, Jim, more than 6 months have passed. You need to get over this so we can move on. I need you. I need you in our bed. I don't want to do this, but if you're not going to fulfill your marital responsibilities to me, I'll have to go out and find someone to take care of my needs. I looked up at her. She was wearing a black quarter-cup corset, sheer black panties, black seam stockings, and 4-inch stilettos. I have to admit, she looked great. It was an obvious maneuver on her part, but I had to admire her attempt. I went back to reading my book, saying, "Have fun, but don't bring them home. Children should not see someone else in your bed. By the way, I'm sure whoever you hook up with tonight will really appreciate this outfit." She ran out of the room, sobbing. I did not care. By that time, I had reached indifference to her. She destroyed my love for her. She didn't go out that weekend or the next. She spent those 2 weeks trying with all her might to get me back into her bed. It became quite annoying. Yes, she did look like the epitome of sex, but every time I was even slightly excited, the picture of her and Mark, asshole, Lavalier in bed together instantly cooled me down. There was no way I could have sex with her again. This happened a couple of Saturdays ago. The children were already asleep. I was sitting on the couch, reading a book, when Linda came into the room. She was wearing makeup and a tight black dress. The dress had a plunging neckline, showing off her impressive cleavage. The hem of the dress was several inches above the knees. Her legs were in black silk stockings, and on her feet were 15-centimeter black stilettos. Obviously, this was another ultimatum for me. Last chance, Jim. I really love you and want to be with you, but I need something. Either take me upstairs to bed, or I'm off to meet my date. Have a good time, I said. Her head dropped, and I heard a sob. After a moment, she straightened up, turned, and walked out the door. She returned home only at 9 o'clock the next morning. She looked like she was very tortured. I didn't say a word as she walked past me and up to her room. A couple of minutes later, I heard the shower start. It was the following Friday evening. I came home from work and smelled her dinner. I called out to her as I walked past the kitchen. "Don't put a plate on me. I have dinner today by appointment." I heard her exclamation of surprise as I hurried past. In my bedroom, I took off my work clothes and went to the bathroom. Shaving, showering, and teeth brushing were completed. I added a little cologne, then started getting dressed. Linda had not seen the results of my training until that moment. I was either in work clothes or loose clothes at home. Today, everything will be a little different. I wanted to make an impression. I put on new levies, a new Western-style cowboy shirt, and new cowboy boots. I bought them earlier this week, especially for this occasion. "Where are you?" Linda began as I entered the room. "Sorry, I'm a little late. I have to go," I replied. I saw her eyes widen when she finally saw me. The jeans were tight, but not too tight. The shirt was tailored to my figure, and she could see that my chest and arms were bigger and more muscular, as well as the fact that my little tummy had disappeared. She was also surprised by what I was wearing. This was a bit of a new look for me. "Jim, where are you going like that?" "For dinner and dancing. Saddle Tramp has Western dances at the bar on the weekends." Saddle Tramp is an upscale Western-style restaurant and lounge. A local dance group plays there on weekends. But. Sorry, I have to pick up my date. Don't wait for me." And I walked out the door. Brenda was a work colleague. We were friends even before Linda went crazy. She saw how I was acting and finally got me to tell her what happened. After that, we started having lunch together several times a week, and I would update her on the situation. Brenda divorced her husband a couple of years ago, and she was absolutely not interested in a new relationship. However, she was interested in occasional night outs and perhaps ins. After Linda went out and slept with someone last weekend, she said something about geese and jibs, then asked if I had ever done Western dancing. "Don't be stupid. I mentioned that this is something I've always wanted to learn and asked if she wanted to teach me on Friday night." She was 2 years younger than me and in great shape. It was pretty obvious in her tight jeans and Western-style shirt that barely contained her D-cup breasts. Yes, dinner was fantastic. The conversation was exciting. The dancing was energetic. We were like one at a slow dance. She was a great teacher, and by the time we left I had a good understanding of Western dance. She was pleasantly surprised by my results in the gym. Yes, it tired me, but the stamina I gained from training allowed me to hold on well. We were both quite satisfied when we finally fell asleep. Linda was definitely not happy at 10 a.m. the next day. She was probably unhappy earlier, but I can't confirm that because I didn't see her until I walked through the door. I can confirm that she was furious as soon as I walked through the door. "The kids are at my parents' house for the weekend. We need to talk," she demanded. "Of course. Let me change and I'll be back." She really didn't want it, but I didn't give her much choice. Since the day was quite warm, I opted for shorts and a t-shirt. She was quite stunned when I returned to the room. The t-shirt was not too loose. "Damn it, when did you get so muscular?" "Well, I've been going to the gym regularly for the past 6 months. So, what do we need to discuss?" "What the hell happened last night? How dare you go on a date with another woman and cheat on me like that?" "Oh, you mean what you did last weekend?" "This is different. I offered it to you, and you refused me outright. I am always available to you. So, you can have sex with other men, but I can't have sex with other women. I just told you that you can have me anytime you want. You don't have to date other women. You, however, refused to have sex with me. I had no other options." "Well, there's a little problem with your explanation. You see, on February 29th, I was completely ready, available, and wanted you, but you gave up on me and ran off with another man. Suddenly, you become a hypocrite, telling me that I shouldn't do the same thing you did. At least I was honest and didn't humiliate you in front of all our so-called friends. Now, if you'll let me, I have some work to do in the yard." I spent the rest of the day outside drinking beer and working in the yard and garage. Linda was still angry. When I returned in the evening, she was dressed to go out. She told me she was going to meet Dee and the others at the club. I had to take care of my dinner, and she didn't know when she would be home. With these words, she left. Okay then. I heated up the leftovers in the microwave and then sat down at the table to eat. While I was eating, a rather evil idea occurred to me. I deliberately hid my new body from Linda until last night. Our other so-called friends had not seen me since that terrible night, so they also did not know about all the work I had done. Linda tried to bring them home a couple of times, but I either refused or simply left before they arrived and did not return until I was sure they were gone. I didn't want anything to do with them. Two of them really deserved revenge. With luck, maybe the others will understand something too. With that thought in mind, I quickly finished dinner and began getting ready for the night. I was lucky and was able to get a room at Madison. I took my time, shaved, took a shower, and cleaned myself up in order. A little cologne, nice silk boxer briefs, my best blue jeans, and a tight polo added to my appeal. I completed the look with a pair of anaconda leather cowboy boots. I wasn't an NFL player, but I was in great shape. The polo accentuated my muscular chest and biceps, as well as my flat stomach. Even a hint of my abs showed through my shirt. I was ready. If I get rejected, so be it. There will always be other women in this club. I had been in the club for about half an hour when they arrived. The whole company. Wonderful. I kept a low profile for about an hour. I tried to dance on the other side of the dance floor, away from their table. Finally, the time has come. They were all shocked when I approached their table. Dee, guess I owe you a dance since we never got to dance the last time we were here, I said, gently tugging on her hand. At first, perhaps from shock, but she did not resist when I took her to the dance floor. The first song was fast. She looked at me a little strangely and with some wariness. I noticed her eyes flicker up and down, assessing me. But I needed to remove her guard for my plan to succeed. Fortunately, Dee was not the sharpest one in the group, although she considered herself one. The next song was slow. She started to turn to leave, but I held her back. Don't go, Dee. We haven't even had a chance to say hello yet, and it's been so long since we've seen each other. She turned back, and I pulled her closer. I complimented her appearance, adding that she always looked like that. She smiled and returned the compliment about my improved appearance. We talked a little more about how long it had been since we had seen each other and how everyone missed me. As I danced, I gradually pulled her closer. Dee complained about her husband's small size during their wives' conversations. I knew that in this regard I was superior to him. Of course, Dee brought up the topic of my relationship with Linda. I frowned and said that it was very difficult for me to cope with disrespect and humiliation. We danced two more slow songs while we talked. By the end, we were practically merged into one. "Is there anything I can do to help?" she asked when the last song ended. "I don't know," I said. "I'm still confused about what happened, and I'm not sure Linda is telling me the whole truth. I just need to talk to someone who knows so I can make sure she's being honest with me. I'll tell you what, why don't I grab my purse and meet you at your desk? You can talk to me, and I'll confirm everything for you. Okay? I would appreciate it. Maybe we can even share a few more dances." On hook, Dee returned to the table and explained what was happening. Everyone looked animated, believing that Says can fix our problem. If only they knew. 2 hours and 3 slow dances later, I made my move. We talked and retold that night between dances. Dee didn't resist when I pressed myself against her. She even began to respond in kind. "Dee, I think I'm ready to leave now. Why don't you come with me and we can continue our conversation over a glass of wine in a quieter, more private place?" I don't know," she began. "Come on, Dee. It's me. I'm sure Dave won't mind. After all, it's me, and it's just one night. You're helping two friends get through a difficult situation," I insisted. "Okay, let me go tell Dave what's going on." "No, it's okay. I'm sure he won't mind. He told me so himself. You can tell him what happened later." Dee was a little surprised when I led her down the street instead of to the car. I explained that I didn't want to be home when Linda returned, so I booked a room for the night. She accepted this explanation and followed me. We got to our room and drank a couple of glasses of wine, sitting and talking. I turned on some light music and we danced again. I kissed her. Although she didn't kiss back, she didn't pull away either. I left her at her house around 11 o'clock the next morning. I watched as she walked into the house in disgrace before driving away. Yes, I'm an asshole. Linda was in rare form when I walked through the door. What the hell was that last night? What do you mean? What happened? You and Dee just disappeared. Dave called all morning to see if you or Dee were here. Oh, well, it's okay now. I just left Dee at home. I'm sure he's okay now. There's nothing to worry about. What the hell have you been doing all night and this morning? Exactly. What? Damn sure. What do you think we were doing? I don't even know how to play pieces. Did you sleep with her? Of course. She may be a fool, but she's a very attractive woman and great in bed. Bastard, okay? You got back at me, but you probably ruined their marriage. Oh, I doubt it. After all, it was just one night, and it was me. Of course, I'm not some professional football player, but I think I did pretty well, at least judging by that as she walked. Linda stormed out of the room. Well, some people simply cannot accept the truth. I headed to my office. I needed to write a letter. Yes, I'm a bastard, but they made me that way. Dave, I just want to say what a lucky guy you are. Dee is an amazing woman. I'm still not sure Linda and I will ever get over what she did to me, but Dee made some really good verbal arguments, if you know what I mean. Lol. Seriously, I really envy you for having such a wonderful and generous wife. I must say I was surprised. You are truly lucky to have such an amazing wife. Please tell her I'm sorry about the marks. I got a little carried away while I was there. I'm not sure if there are marks on her chest. I hope they disappear soon. Your good friend, Jim. Here. This should fix everything and make him happy again. I'm sure he'll be more than willing to forgive her overnight. After all, that's what he told me to do. Dee showed up at our house 2 hours later. For some reason, she seemed upset. She seemed to strangely blame me for Dave kicking her out of the house. Strange. But Dee, weren't you and Dave the ones who told me that I needed to be a man and forgive Linda for the same thing she did to me a few months ago? Are you now telling me that you're hypocrites? Just tell Dave the same thing, what he told me. I'm sure Dave will agree that your slutty behavior is not something to be offended by. You know what? I'll call Davy and explain everything to him for you. Well, Dee didn't like it at all. Against her will, Dee actually had the audacity to tell me that I had already done enough damage. I still called Dave. Perhaps I shouldn't have mentioned that I had some types of sex with her. She always seemed to deny it to him. He should have thanked me for opening up this opportunity for her so he could enjoy it now. What a friend he turned out to be. A month later, their marriage was a disaster. Now it's my job to fix this. Yes, I'm an asshole, but unfortunately, I'm a better friend to them than they ever were to me. I stood leaning on his car when he came out of work. What do you want, bastard? He said, approaching me. Depends on what you want, bastard, I replied. You can try to hit me, and I'll beat you up for helping my wife cheat on me, or you can shut up and listen to your own words to fix your broken marriage. You have one chance, and either option is fine with me. I must beat up you for what you did to me, but I also have to help you sleep with your wife. The choice is yours. Either way, I'll consider us even, and I'll never speak to you again. Say what you want. You have 5 minutes before I beat you up, he replied. So much for diplomacy, I thought. Not that I expected anything different. Then we'll do it your way, I sighed. First of all, yes, I slept with your wife. So what? To use your own words, it was just one night. Okay, I'm not an NFL player or some famous person. So what? I gave her a night she will never forget. It will never happen again. She came back to you the next day. That's what you all told me that night. Did you tell me right after Linda left? She said that if that guy had called her, she would have gone with him without hesitation. It's funny that she actually thought about it for a minute before she left with me. Now, after hearing everything, you have a choice. I gave Dee the night of her life that night. I assure you, I will never touch her again. This gives you a chance to be a bigger person. You have an opportunity to be better than me. That's it. What to do is follow the exact same advice you gave me on February 29th. Give her that one night of her life. Forgive her and move on. Yes, just like my wife will never forget her night with that asshole, so will Dee. Won't forget her night with me. I will never forgive or forget what Linda did to me, but you can show your wife that you have finally become a better person than me by forgiving her and taking her back. That's all I wanted to say. Go ahead and hit me. If you do that, I'll beat you up for helping my wife cheat on me. After that, I'll be done with you. I won't come for you unless you start what? Then, if you just leave, I will let you go and will not take revenge on you further. The choice is yours. For a minute, I thought he was going to try. Instead, he shook his head, walked around the car, and got behind the wheel. As promised, I let him go. It took a while, but Dave and Dee were able to get through it. I sometimes see them in clubs and restaurants. Obviously, their relationship is not the same as before. When Dee sees me, there's always a sparkle in her eyes, as if she's thinking about how she can relive that night again. Will not happen. I was sitting in the living room on Saturday afternoon. The children were with Linda's parents. Linda came in and sat on the chair opposite me. There was a week left until Valentine's Day. Jim, we need to talk. This has been going on for almost a year, and I need to know what we're doing. What's your plan? For God's sake, if you're going to divorce me, just do it and get it over with. No, I'm not going to divorce you. It would be too hard on Emma and Timmy. If we divorce, then they will only have a partially present father. Of course, I have no say in whether you file for divorce. I hope that you won't do it because I think you also understand that they need me to the fullest in their lives. So what do we do then? We're doing what we've been doing since March. We're platonic roommates raising kids. Other than the kids, you live your life and I live mine. We continue to attend events together and raise our kids. You can date whoever you want. I'll do the same. None of us bring lovers here. We still have parties here with our friends. You can invite your friends, but I won't interact with them. I don't want anything to do with them anymore. If we are having a party, you can invite your current lover like me, but there will be no sex in this house. I also ask you to be respectful and refrain from public displays of affection. Personally, I don't care, but it might confuse the children. Not that it matters to you, it would be completely disrespectful to me. When we go out with the family, we are polite to each other for the sake of the children. The same goes for holidays with the family. We continue this until Timmy goes to college. After the children leave home, we will officially divorce. I'm not sure I can live like this. I don't want another lover, I want my husband back. Well, whether you want to live this way or not is your choice. If you file for divorce, I won't be able to stop you. I would hope that you would see that it is better for the children to have both parents living in the same house. As for divorce, the only thing you will get is the opportunity to bring your lover here and marry someone else. Keep in mind that this will negatively affect the children and create financial difficulties for everyone. Also keep in mind that I will definitely mention your adultery in the divorce, and I'll make it public. Do you really hate me that much? There's no chance for us. No, there's no chance for us. It died when you left the club to have sex with that asshole. As for hating you, at first I really hated you. Now I don't have any feelings for you anymore. I loved you more than anything in the world until the night of February 29th last year. You were everything to me until you let go of my hand and took that asshole's hand. If you had just told him no, everything would have been fine. Even if you just danced a couple of times, we could still get over it. Yes, I would be mad at you for dancing with someone else on our special night, but we would get over it. Our chance ended when you walked out the back door of the club and got into his car. From that moment, our happy marriage was over. I understand. I think this is my payback for my actions. I will accept your terms with one change. Timmy won't go to college for another 13 and a half years. I intend to spend every second of that time trying to change your mind and make you love me again. Good luck with that, I replied. She tried. She tried her best all the time. She didn't even try to hide the fact that she wasn't fighting fairly. She's a woman. Women don't fight fair. It's in their nature. That's what they do. They say that in love and war, all means are fair. This was probably what the woman originally said. Men adhere to chivalry and a sense of honor, while women use vile tactics and are happy to leave the enemy devastated on the battlefield. Linda has always been and continues to be an exceptional beauty. Like all great warriors, she knows what weapons she has and is an expert in using them. She constantly threw her entire arsenal at me. Even worse, she called for reinforcements. Where I was alone on the battlefield, she had a whole battalion. Support, her parents. The children seemed to stay with her parents on weekends more often. That weekend, Linda wore minimal clothing, and sometimes nothing at all. She enjoyed cleaning in high heels, a tiny thong, and a too small t-shirt. It seemed as if everything that needed to be picked up from the floor just happened to end up right in front of me. I swear I saw more of her ass than her face. Eventually, both the thong and the t-shirt disappeared. At night, she walked around the house in a transparent negligee with nothing underneath. When I would go get a drink after working in the yard, she would sneak up behind me and hug me. She never missed an opportunity to touch me as she passed by. When my hands were busy with something I was carrying around the house, she would attack me while I was defenseless. Every summer, her parents took the children away for 2 weeks. Linda spent these 2 weeks completely naked. Scouts, her colleagues, I went out on dates or just to the bar. I never told Linda where I was going. It always turned out that one of her colleagues happened to be in the same place. Sometimes they came over to say hello. This was usually followed by asking how Linda was doing, and then they would watch me and report back to Linda where I was, who I was with, and what I was doing. Other times, when I was alone at the bar, they would gang up and monopolize my time on the dance floor, preventing any chance of meeting other women. It was no surprise when Linda joined them half an hour later. Snipers and combat teams, friends. Thanks to the intelligence above, Linda always knew about any woman I dated. Suddenly, after 1 or 2 dates, the woman broke off the relationship. After the fourth time, I finally managed to get an explanation from one of them. Since women always seem to really enjoy themselves, it didn't make sense. They told me it was because another woman they didn't know came up and warned them. It wasn't that I was a bad guy or anything, it was just that there was another woman who loved me, and there would be no dating otherwise. A full-scale frontal attack on my weakened defenses. The secret weapon is the bomb. I lasted 5 years. Linda and her forces were not always able to block me. Unfortunately, they had a good period of 6 months. I was disappointed and returned from the club on another Friday night, where several of her friends had successfully rebuffed every attempt to meet someone. Just as I was about to go upstairs, Linda and the red-haired goddess came in through the back door. Both of them were naked. "Oh, you're home. Jim, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Kat. Her real name is Katie, but she prefers to be called Kat. Kat, this is my husband Jim, whom I told you about." "It's very nice to meet you, Jim. Linda has told me a lot about you," Kat said, coming closer and hugging me. I swear it was pure reflex that I returned the hug. It had to be so because my brain wasn't working at that moment. I mean, she was great. I mentioned that she was completely naked, right? Yes. Nice to meet you too, I managed. Well, we were just refilling our glasses with wine before heading back to the hot tub. Why don't you join us? Like a lamb to the slaughter. Now, Jim, Linda began as we were all in the hot tub. I need to confess something to you. I've screwed up before, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. I want to assure you that I haven't had sex with anyone since we sat down and discussed what our relationship would be like going forward. It was 5 years ago. I'm on the edge. So what should I do? I made a promise that you will be the only man I will have sex with. but I need physical contact and emotional support from another person. That left me with only one option. Last weekend, I decided to go to a women's bar and met Kat there. Guessing you'll be out all night, I invited her here to get to know her better. No, I wasn't planning on having sex with her today. I remember your ban on any sexual contact here, but I needed to see if I could even consider making love with another woman. My plan was that if I felt like I could actually do it, we would go to her house. I hope you agree that sex with another woman is different from sex with another man. Well, this is something new. I didn't expect this. So, Linda, what is this ban on sex here? Kat asked. Well, it's a few things actually. First, if I had someone here for sex, it would be very disrespectful to Jim. Also, we don't want to confuse our children by seeing me with a lover here. They may not understand why mom would make love to someone other than their dad. Another thing is that I want to assure my husband that he is the man of the house, and he will be the only man who will ever occupy my bed. Oh, I see. Then I think I have a solution, Kat replied. First of all, the children are not here, so there is no chance that they will see anything that might confuse them. The other two issues can be solved by simply inviting your husband to join us. Of course, if you don't mind sharing it with me. I told you that I love both men and women, didn't I? Oh, what a great idea. I never would have thought of that, Linda exclaimed. Yeah. Speaking of which, I have a bridge in Brooklyn that's for sale. What do you think, Jim? Kat asked. No, I won't fall for their trick. I will be strong. To hell with this. Okay, yeah, I gave in and brought Linda back. Gentlemen, I'm a man. Try spending 2 days continuously having sex with two beautiful and passionate women, and then tell me I've given up. Oh yeah, and since biologically one man can never keep up with two hot women, no matter what kind of stud he thinks he is, I had a front row seat to watch the great action. Linda liked it with another woman. So I went back to Linda's master bedroom. No, Kat did not move in with us and become part of the Trinity. She joined us periodically for special occasions. About a week after our weekend with Kat, Linda, and I sat down and discussed our future relationship. We decided to draw up and sign a marriage contract. The penalties for treason were severe. Of course, we included the possibility of periodic meetings with another woman where both participated. Linda had learned a painful lesson over the past few years, and I had no desire to cheat. Of course, I enjoyed myself with other women, but that was simply in response to what Linda had done. Obviously, there was still some ember left in my love for her. She managed to fan the spark out of him. That spark turned into a flame. No, we are not back to what we were before. This is simply impossible. We are always a product of our experiences. These experiences cannot but change a person. We've both changed too much to go back to how we were before. What we have now is different, but no less good. Our love has matured. Our relationship has changed. I won't say they got stronger, because that's just stupid. They haven't become any less powerful. It's hard to describe. It's one of those things you have to get over. Yes, sometimes suspicions arise, but we discuss them. Neither of us trusts the other to the same degree anymore. We're dealing with this. It helps that our problems weren't caused by secret affairs. Everything we did was open and in full view of the other. Sometimes I have business dinners with clients. I reported this to Linda. I can't help but smirk when I see one of her friends having dinner at the same restaurant. When Linda returns from one of her nights out, she always tells me that one or another of my friends who happened to be at the same club looked good and seemed to be having fun. Of course, our friends aren't always there, and it's usually really a coincidence, but we always laugh about it later. So what about Mark Lavalier? Seriously, guys. Yes, I got into great shape, but I was not an elite athlete. In addition, he was a rich, famous man with connections with many influential people. He moved in circles that I couldn't reach. Of course, I could have waylaid him and either shot him or beaten him with a bat, but that would have just landed me in jail. I had no friends in such low places that I could ask them to deal with him. I was not a black belt in any martial art. If I tried to confront him, he would probably beat me. Even if it weren't for him, One of his teammates most likely would have done it. There was also the understanding that although he was the one who proposed, Linda accepted. She could have said no at any time. I didn't have any plans for him. I just thought that he would pay for it somehow, someday. I read once that someone wrote, "Retribution is a bitch, and her name is Karma." This was 3 years after Linda left the club with him. I was reading the newspaper on Saturday morning. The article was on the first page. Mark Lavaliere was in hospital and 4 men were arrested for beating him. The article stated that his injuries were serious enough to end his career. The men were arrested without further incident. The story developed over the next week. It turned out that a month ago Mark used his usual trick with the wife of a former Navy SEAL. After a night of drinking with their friends, 4 of them decided to avenge their brother in arms. His career on the field was ruined, and his career in the bedroom was also over. For several months, investigative journalists wrote articles about how Mark Lavaliere preyed on married women. Illicit sex, power, and money make a great story. The 4 former Navy SEALs were, of course, convicted. A first offense, exemplary service to the country, and a passionate speech from their former commander earned them 30 days in jail and 3 years of probation. Mark became a pariah in society and soon moved out of state. More than 3 years have passed since I came home and found Kat with my wife. It was another Friday evening, and I had just returned home after finishing another work week. Linda greeted me at the door with a very deep and excited kiss. "I've got marinated steaks and corn on the cob, soaking for the grill tonight. Think you can work magic with them. Oh, and there are shrimp kebabs." Okay, it wasn't that weird. The evening was good, and I barbecued often. A letter will be here soon. Sure, here is the text with the special characters removed. However, although it was not regular, it was not out of the ordinary. I glanced towards the kitchen. "Linda, there are 3 of us, you, me, and Kat. Why are there 4 steaks on the tray?" A very shy smile appeared on her face, which turned into a rather evil grin. "Well, you see, the thing is, oh shit, I knew I wouldn't like it. Sure, here is the revised text." Finally, she looked at me and said it all as if in spirit, without taking a breath. For readability, I use correct punctuation and spaces between words. In reality, everything came out in one long word without any punctuation. I'll leave it up to you to decide how I heard it. Dee showed up at the bistro where a letter and I had lunch this afternoon, and I had no choice but to introduce her. Dee is dying to spend one more night with you, and when she somehow figured out that a letter and I are more than just friends, she seemed to insist on being periodically included in our company. When she heard Kat mention that she was coming over tonight, Dee somehow forced me to invite her too. Oh my God. She called Dave and told him she would spend the night here before I agreed. "Jim, I really didn't want this to happen, but Kat kind of looked at Dee and then nodded at me. I think Kat likes her, likes her. Please don't be mad." Seriously, how can you say all this without taking a breath? Linda, you must be completely honest with me. I leave this decision entirely up to you. Moreover, you must write down your decision and sign it so that there are no misunderstandings later. Dee comes here so that I can have sex with her again. Make no mistake about it. Do you agree with this? Although I admit that she is an attractive woman, I will not do anything with her that you do not agree to. Linda's shy smile turned into an evil grin. "I will only allow her to have sex with you after she agrees and has sex with me and Kat. Like you said, she is an attractive woman." Just to clarify, what about Dave? Screw him. After Dee left, Kat told me she was going to send him pictures of her and Dee having sex. If Dave was stupid enough to leave, Kat would take her. That's when my life got its end suitability. Dee and Linda decided to take revenge on me. They were going to bore me to death. Besides, Linda purred, cuddling up to me, "If Kat and Dee do get together, you'll have 3 hot women to fuck." Touchdown. "Shut up, asshole. Football season is over," answered the big brain. "Bitches," I muttered after 12 months. "Yeah, well, it's your own fault." Oh no, I objected. It's all on you, you bastard. Seriously, are you blaming me for all this? Damn sure. Of course it's your fault. Come on, you know I will never initiate this well, except in some cases, which we both know is not the case. Damn you. By the way, yeah, shut up about it. You got them all. Yes, we did it. So what's the problem? Are you seriously blaming me because your big brain didn't insist on protection during sex? You had to. Dude, I hate these things. Blame the big brain. That's what he's there for. Crap. Why do I always lose arguments with my manhood? Jim, I think my water has broken. Linda shouted from the living room. Bastard, I thought. Seriously, bitch? Dee objected. I'm due a week before you. Damn it, I should be first. She made her way into the room. Girls, please, said Kat, who was 6 months pregnant. Calm down. Jim will take care of us all. Emma and Timmy have adjusted well to Aunt Kat and Aunt Dee moving in after Dee's divorce. They were looking forward to the arrival of their younger sister and brother. A little brother from Linda was just the icing on the cake for them. Dave could forgive one of Dee's sins, but when she became pregnant after he performed the procedure on himself, it was too much. With the help of Kat D, she found a real shark lawyer and got everything out of him during the divorce. After all the crap you got me into, I should cut you off, I thought. Yes, you won't do this. I seriously can. It would be better for me. Oh, hey, did you see how Jane's ass looked when she bent over to pick up her purse from the bench last weekend at the club? I don't think it's healthy to have these conversations with your body, especially when he's 100% right about what an ass Jane has. Sighing to myself, I stood up from the couch, picked up Linda's bag, and began helping her into the truck. Dee and Kat climbed into the back seat. I noticed that Dee had taken her bag. Better safe, she muttered as I raised my eyebrows. Before I started the truck for the trip to the hospital, I thought, Jane's ass has to be fucking amazing, or you'll end up in the fireplace, I said mentally. It had been over a year since Linda, Dee, and Kat had sex with me over and over again like the last time. At first, I thought it would just be fun, but I soon realized that it was all a trap. They wanted to torture me. They wanted to make me their slave. And to tell you the truth, I didn't mind. Our relationship has changed. We have become more open, more honest. I knew Linda still wanted me back completely, and I couldn't blame her for that. She tried. She really tried. But I knew I could never fully trust her again. We agreed to leave everything as it was until Timmy went to college. That was not easy, but we managed. I've learned to live with it. I've learned to accept it. As for Dee and Kat, they became part of our family. They helped me get through it. They were there when I needed to talk. They were there when I needed to blow off some steam. They were there when I needed to be reminded that I was still alive. And now, after all these years, I finally realize that, despite everything, I am not alone. I am surrounded by people who love me, care about me, and want me to be happy. And that's what really matters. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.